official podcast of the Jacksonville Public Library.
I'm Hurley.
And I'm Jenna.
We have a superstar chef on the show today. Chef Kenny Gilbert is in the building. Well, not anymore. He just left. But he was. I promise.
We're still enjoying his amazing food.
We really are. He's going to tell you all about it. It smells like heaven in here.
It's so good. Kenny is, I don't know, I'm a huge fan.
Same.
I told him this after we interviewed with him, but the reason I found out about him and his restaurants is because of my mom, good old Sandy. She is a lifetime subscriber of Southern Living magazine and only visits restaurants that are in the magazine.
Only?
Well, not exclusively, but
if she could, she would.
Yeah, it's her number one tour guide.
Yeah.
Yelp, no thanks. Southern Living.
Gotcha. So she saw Chef Kenny in Southern Living.
Yep. Gilbert Social specifically was in Southern Living, and of course, as soon as she came, we had to go, and it was amazing.
What did Sandy think?
Oh, she was impressed.
Yeah.
She is a pimento cheese connoisseur.
Yeah.
So she was through the roof. I don't know. What do you say that to the moon? How do you say that?
Through the roof. Sure.
No. Over the moon. That's what I'm saying. Over the moon about the pimento cheese. And that's real life.
That's real life.
That's real life.
Man. Yeah, so Chef Kenny has the best barbecue in the city, hands down. And it was such a treat to get to talk to him today. The king of barbecue, everybody, Chef Kenny Gilbert. Chef Kenny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
And I'm a huge fan, so I'm
Same.
so excited to learn more about what you do with this magical, magical food. So first of all, tell us about each of your restaurants.
Oh my gosh.
It's quite a list.
Well, we have Gilbert's Underground Kitchen. That is located in Fernandina Beach.
Is that one new? I saw it on your pull-up banner at the Yelp event. And I'd never even heard of that one.
That's the first one.
That was the first one you did?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
We got to get up there.
I got to catch up.
Yeah.
So that one's been open since 2015.
Okay.
So we're approaching 4 years. That one started off as just kind of our hub for Southern fare and pop-ups. The name Underground Kitchen translates to pop-up and supper clubs. If you check out restaurants like in Brazil or in London, they tend to have the name Underground Kitchen, and that just stands for when you just kind of pop up and do something unique. So what I wanted to do, because of my background, I wanted to have something that paid homage to both sides of my family, Southern and barbecue, but then also tapping into my world travels. I've trained over in Spain and Japan and France and the Caribbean, and I wanted to be able to kind of introduce some of those other things that I felt was missing on the island. So each week we would do a special pop-up that had nothing to do with barbecue or nothing to do with Southern. So we could do things, Indian, we can do Thai, we can do Vietnamese, we can do Korean, we can do Russian, we can do, Polish fare. We can do pretty much anything we want.
Wow.
What's your favorite pop-up you've done so far?
Probably my favorite is probably Thai. There's no Thai on the island. The closest Thai you're going to be able to get is in Hurley, and I think they most recently just closed. So when we do Thai, that's one of my favorite cuisines. Is what I gravitate to. I try to have things that I don't really know too much about, so that I have to research. That kind of goes back to my cooking school days from when I used to work at the Ritz-Carlton. I would always teach classes based on things I had no idea about. So it forced me to read and to research, and then to add it into my repertoire and pay respect to the culture. So I like to try to, I love Thai flavors. I think that it's one of the hottest cuisines out. I think it's a very underappreciated culture. I wanted to try to, do my spin on it while still paying respect to the culture.
Sure. So you have 3 other restaurants, correct?
Yeah, so we have Gilbert Social, which is on Southside Boulevard. That's been open 2 years now. That concept, very similar to Underground Kitchen, Southern and barbecue. We focus on what we call social platters, which is almost like your meat and 3 platters where you get your protein, choose your sides. That seems to be the most popular with our guests. And then we have our specialty entrees, where that we take items, the Southern ingredients, and have fun with them, and try to take those international ideas of different cuisines, but tying it with Southern ingredients. So, for example, we have a smoked beef brisket stroganoff, which is very, very popular. We're taking our smoked brisket, chopping it up, and then roasted garlic and egg noodles and a really nice creamy sour cream sauce. We don't add the paprika in it that you would for a normal stroganoff because of the spices that's already on the brisket. And we usually garnish it off with some scallions and fresh herbs.
Oh, yum.
Oh my gosh. It must be noted that we're recording this at the end of the day, and I am like so starving listening to this. So good. So then, and you have 2 at Jack's Beach, right?
And then Jack's Beach is a unique facility. It's what we call a food hall. So it's a mini food hall where we actually have 4 concepts. There's 3 concepts that are year round, and then 1 that is seasonal. So Gilbert Southern Kitchen and Bar overlooks the ocean. That's on the east end of the building. Panoramic views of the ocean, modern and traditional Southern fare with hints of barbecue. So we have some smoked elements throughout the menu. But that concept is a little more elevated, but still very approachable for the guest. Directly underneath that space on the patio downstairs, we had Gilbert's Beach Barbecue, which we had open from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And we wanted to have something that, based on the weather being nice, that you can go on the patio, have some margaritas, have some barbecue, some tacos, some nice cold local craft beers. So that one recently closed after Labor Day, but we still highlight the tacos throughout the property as specials. Like you get $4 tacos any day of the week. And then in the middle of the facility, we have the Sea Chaser Lounge. The building originally was called Sea Chasers. That was the original restaurant. My partner approached me about a year ago now and wanted to see if I had any interest in consulting and helping bring people into the building. And we ended up talking and negotiating, and we became partners. I came on as a partner, and we rebranded. But I wanted to keep the name of the facility so people had a landmark that they could go to. So we basically just singled it out to our entertainment section of the building in the center of the building called the Sea Chaser Lounge, where we feature live entertainment on Fridays and Saturdays. It's also great for parties. So if you want to have we've had a lot of alumni events and special retreats, and it seats about 80 to 90 people in that area. So if you want to bring in some entertainment yourself, there's a full bar. You can have a nice quiet space. And then the last area is Gilbert's Hot Chicken, Fish, and Shrimp. That is on the west end of the building right off of First Street. And that is a concept that I felt that was really missing at the beaches, but also that people can relate to. Fried chicken, fried shrimp, fried catfish. You can get your slaw, you can get your French fries, basic sides that most people relate to when they think, oh, I want some fresh seafood. They want seafood. They come down, oh, can I get it fried? Can I get it grilled? Can I get it broiled? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to tag it to our Fernandina Beach hot style of products, which models after the Nashville hot chicken. Mm-hmm. So we just feature our smoked boneless chicken thighs that we fry, local mahi-mahi, local shrimp is our core basis proteins. And then we interject some other things in here and there. So grain bowls that we're focusing on the top 50 superfoods. You know, there's kale and Benny seeds and cucumber and tomatoes and edamame and things like that. So you can come in there and get very healthy items. Everything is not fried. You can get it grilled or broiled or blackened as well as fried.
So good. I think hot chicken's my favorite. Have you been there, Jenna?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh. Well, I live at the beaches, and it's the best fried chicken at the beach, hands down. And I'm just so happy that I no longer have to cross the ditch to get Bojangles fried chicken, and pretend that I'm having good fried chicken. Thank you. Yeah, you've done a wonderful service for the beaches.
Thank you.
I want to know, I find it interesting. You have 4 restaurants in the area, and they're all pretty different. I mean, they're kind of the same vein of food, but why not just open one restaurant, have one menu, and then open 3 others that are exactly like it?
That's a great question. And probably if we sat here and did some brainstorming a couple of years ago, I probably would have followed that same suit. But, I was, being a previous executive chef of a hotel, when you run a hotel, you're used to having multiple concepts in the facility. So, you can have this 100,000 square foot hotel that you're responsible for, and you have room service, you have banquets and catering, you have the 3 meal period restaurant, you have a steakhouse, you have a fine dining, you have a pool bar restaurant. So every one of these concepts are all different because you're catering to up to 1,000 people when you're fully committed, and you need to give them something different. You have to have something that is very kid friendly. You have something for the adults when they just want to get away and celebrate something special. So I looked at that when all my experience of running fine dining restaurants and hotels for my whole career, when it came time to open my first concept, that's why I was struggling with Underground Kitchen, and it made sense to do something that pigeonholed me into an area where I can, do what I love to do, which is my background, Southern and barbecue, but then also tap into my other strengths. So when we did that, Underground Kitchen ended up becoming the test site for a lot of these different concepts that we have since evolved. So like hot chicken, fish, and shrimp, I first started that concept at Underground Kitchen. We were just serving our fried chicken, then it ended up being our catfish and shrimp, and then I said, well, we need to do a hot version of this. I came up with a sauce, and it was great on everything, and next thing you know, that's how the hot chicken, fish, and shrimp concept evolved. So they are different, but also still the same. But you're right. Technically speaking, I probably should have opened up one I was literally just talking about this today. I should have opened up Underground Kitchen and then just opened up multiple Underground Kitchens or a smaller version of it. Because, right now with staffing and stuff like that, it's very challenging to find people that have the skill set to do what you need them to do. Mm-hmm. But it'd be easier if you just have, all right, this is what you have to do, and then you're just, replicating that multiple times over. So we still kind of do that. If you worked in each one of the restaurants, a lot of the core recipes are the same. Each region will be a little bit different. Like, for example, our greens at the beach are vegetarian. So we use kale as our base green. We do a fried shallot and garlic broth, apple cider vinegar, a little bit of brown sugar, crushed up pepper, salt. They cook down, and those are our greens. Whereas in Fernandina, this was smoked ham hocks. Mm-hmm. And then in Jacksonville, as social, it's with smoked turkey. So everyone, that philosophy and that technique is the same, but things are a little bit different. So it's a little more stressful, but it's not too bad.
I love it because you feel like you're getting something different everywhere you go. It's like, oh, well, I tried Gilbert Social. Now I have to try hot chicken.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I know it's more work, but
Jacksonville's better for it to have
definitely.
a variety, I would say.
For sure. So how did you get started as a chef?
I started off cooking with my mom. The story is my mom is from St. Augustine. She one of 7. She was the oldest daughter, oldest girl, and she basically moved to New York for fashion design school, was a nanny, and then she moved to Cleveland where she was like a tailor over these multiple dry cleaners. And she wanted to have girls, but she ended up having boys. And my brother and I, she was working on a fashion show, and my brother's a year and a half younger than me. And I was running around the house. I was like 3. He was in a playpen. And my mom happened to have a roast in the oven, and I went to the stove. I grabbed the towel off the stove, and at that time, back in the day, those towels had the little phrase on the end of it. And I opened the oven door, grabbed the rack, pulled the rack out, and then those frays ended up hitting the coils and started to smoke. And I ran downstairs, and I'm looking at my mom, and she's like, what did you do? What did you do? And then she came upstairs and saw that I had pulled this roast out, and it happened to be done. So from that point on, she said, I'm going to show you the ins and outs of a kitchen because you're so curious. And from that point on, the next day, she showed me like, okay, this is hot. Always have a towel, clean as you go. I scrambled my first egg when I was 3. And then from that point on, I just looked at it as time with family, and it just stuck with me.
Man, made the perfect roast at, how old were you?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was perfect roast. It came out on time.
Perfect temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now we read that you were cooking the entire Thanksgiving dinner for your family when you were just 11. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah. By the time I was 11 years old, I, from start to finish, all the homemade yeast rolls to the pies and turkey and dressing and all the other sides. I did everything by the time I was 11 years old, for sure.
Jeez. My mom is so stressed at Thanksgiving, I can't even imagine
Right.
doing it myself, let alone an 11-year-old doing it.
I know it. That's wild.
That's insane. And most of your restaurants have kind of a barbecue style base. What drew you to barbecue specifically? Is that a family thing as well?
Yeah, my dad sold insurance for about 40 years, but in his pastime on the weekends, he would do barbecue with his buddy Eddie Jones. And they would rotate between our house and his house. And he had his own sauce. He had his own rub. He specialized in ribs. He did everything. He did chicken. He did steaks and stuff like that. But his specialty were ribs. And I just remember as a kid just, having ribs and some simple white bread and his sauce on the side. You just kind of dunk your bread in the sauce. You eat the ribs. And I just remember those were the best memories I ever had. And smelling molasses and brown sugar, cooking with baked beans and things like that. So I'm classically trained as a chef. I have a degree in culinary arts. So learning the classical French techniques and other cultures is great. But growing up, that's what I remember. And when I said that I was going to open my own restaurant, I wanted to have something that I could, every time I did, I could remind myself of my dad or my mom or my grandma or my uncles or things like that. So that's why we integrated barbecue into the concepts.
Wow, I love that.
Me too. And now I think the parking lot at Gilbert Social is probably the best smelling place in Jacksonville. You have multiple smokers ablaze and the meats inside are just, oh my gosh, they smell so good. Can you, without giving away too many trade secrets, can you take us through your smoking process?
Yeah, it's a very interesting process because not many barbecue restaurants will follow it 100% because most barbecue restaurants, like say a Woody's or a Sonny's or a Bono's or something like that, they're going to have either a pit or a rotisserie smoker in their places, usually a Southern Pride. And so their guys can come in and say late night, say 9, 10 o'clock at night, they can season up their brisket or their pork butts, throw it on there, put one log in there, and then just hit a button, 275, 300 degrees, and forget about it. And then a person comes in the next morning, and then they pull the meats off. They put them in a warmer, like an Alto-Shaam warmer, and they hold it all day. And then as you come in, you want brisket, you pull it off, you slice it or chop it or whatever, and you serve it. And I don't do that. I do like old school classic pit barbecue, as in, here's my smokers outside. This is what it is. But I throw in a modern technique into it where we're going to be able to have it where it's at its freshest point for you all the time. You're not going to have meat that's going to sit at a temperature that potentially can become dangerous for long periods of time. So we'll season our meats, and we take it to the point where it's about 85% ready to go. So, for example, let's just talk brisket. We'll season our brisket, my special rub. We'll throw it on the smoker, and we'll smoke it to about 165 degrees. That usually takes about 6 to 7 hours, depending on temperature fluctuations. Is it raining? Is it windy? All that kind of stuff. We pull it off. At that point, you can't get much more smoke into your meat past 6 to 7 hours. At that point, you're just cooking with heat that happens to be coming from wood and smoke. But the meat will not penetrate. You can't penetrate any more smoke past like a 6-hour period. So I figured that part out. So okay, well, why waste wood? Because it costs. Every stick costs you money. So we take the brisket, we wrap it in plastic wrap, and then several times, so it's almost like it's a cryovac whole piece of brisket, and then we immediately dunk it in an ice bath. So we stop the cooking process, and what happens is all the juices, the rub and everything kind of reverse brines and seasons the meat. Then the next day we come in, 2.5 hours before we open, we'll turn our ovens on at like 400 degrees. We then wrap that brisket in foil, put on a rack with a sheet pan, and we put it in the oven. and we for the next 2 hours, it takes to bring it up to 195 degrees, and then from 195 degrees, we will take it and pull it out, put it into a cooler, just like a cooler you put your beer in before you go out to the beach, and we just let it rest in there. And then, so basically every 2 hours, we're basically following that process. So by the time that brisket is sold out, we have another batch of brisket that's coming out that is rested. So it's constant throughout the day. So it's like you're getting fresh brisket off of the smoker, because technically you're not supposed to hold your proteins past a 2 hour period of time at above 140 to 165 degrees. Like, you want to, the health department says that you should discard that product. So if you go to a buffet like Golden Corral or any of those other places, they're not allowed to keep it past 2 hours. They shouldn't anyway. They're gonna be busy enough, they're just cycling through. But if it holds more than 2 hours, technically it should be thrown away. Now, there's nothing gonna be wrong with it, but from a health standpoint, they say that when you're cooking in mass volume, that's what you should do. So what I've done is we figured out that if we do it in bulk batch, we have to, by the state guidelines with our smokers, cook in bulk batch and then either ice down or bring up to a temperature that is perfectly safe to be served, and then serve that product in X amount of time. So we don't have any waste. So if I cook my pork butts, we'll season our pork butts, smoke them for 10, 12 hours, shred the meat, season it, put them in Ziploc bags, ice it down immediately. So within, you have like a 2 hour period to ice, or a 4 hour period to ice cool your meats down properly. Ours is cooled down in like 20, 30 minutes. And then the next day we bring it up to proper temp, and then we serve it within an hour, 2 hour period. So we have these thermal circulators on the line that we keep at between 145 and 165 degrees. It's at a perfect temp. The meat never overcooks. It's at a constant temperature, and we're able to serve fresh meats all day.
Brilliant. So is the brisket your favorite thing on the menu?
I love it all. Like, I mean, we did a Habitat for Humanity event yesterday out at Ponte Vedra, and we did our smoked pulled turkey tacos, and I ate like 3 tacos. I was like, it was so good. I mean, when I see the ribs go, I get excited like I've never seen my food before. When I stand on the line and like I rotate to the restaurants and I'm cooking or expediting, and I'll see someone put up like fried chicken skins or whatever, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks so good. Like, if my staff look at me like, Chef, you've seen that like a million times. I'm like, if I'm not excited about it, then would you ever be excited about it? And it's not fake. I'm not doing it just to be fake about it. Literally, I get super pumped because if it's wrong,
no, I believe it.
If it's wrong, then I'm pissed.
Right.
Like I'm like, I can't believe you just put that in my window. What is your problem? It can go from 0 to 100 quick.
Yeah.
Here's something I've always wondered. I drive past Gilbert Social every day on my way home from work, and I'm always wondering: has anyone ever stolen any meat out of your smokers?
No,
that's never happened, because I've thought about it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm always like, should I stop right now and grab something?
Yeah, well, they would have to really think about how they're going to do that, because one, you're talking about meats coming off a smoker that's at like
really hot,
275
It'd have to be
degrees.
premeditated.
Are you a tong carrying driver?
I know, right?
Yeah,
I've considered it.
Tong with aluminum pans and foil and all that good stuff. Yeah,
coming home from a tailgate at the stadium or something.
Yeah, that'd be impressive.
It could happen.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've always wondered.
I guess if someone's stealing your meats right out of your smoker, they got to be pretty.
You're doing it right.
Yeah.
I've seen people come in at Underground Kitchen, and they get out of their car, and they're so curious they decide to just open up the smoker door, and I'm like,
don't do that.
I turn around, and if I'm walking out, I'm like, close the door, don't touch it.
Don't do that.
Yeah, well, because as soon as you open it up, you're dropping temperature about 40, 50 degrees, and it takes a while to get back up. So,
dangerous game.
It sure is. So you're also well known for competing on Top Chef.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite memories from that show?
Oh, favorite memories. Probably one of my best memories was the first time that we were all in a room before we went out. We didn't know what was going on. There's like 17 of us in this room. We all know that we're chefs, all different backgrounds. Some of us recognize each other because of accomplishments or people we've worked with or things like that, because they keep you so sequestered. You have no idea what's going on. And then they keep you kind of like caged animals in a sense. You're not allowed to talk. You're kind of off in a corner, and then all of a sudden they tell you, okay, let's move the chefs to holding area alpha, and then when you hear that, that you got they're gonna be telling you like action chefs within 10 minutes to an hour. You could wait, and then all of a sudden it's like they say, okay, action chefs, we want you to walk 10 feet out through this curtain or whatever the situation is. And when that first episode, we walked out on this rooftop in DC, we're all dressed nice. I think I had a blazer on and whatever. It's hotter than all get out outside. We're on the top of this roof. It's like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. It's like the hottest point of the day. And then you see Padma and Tom standing there, like kind of out of the blue, because they said, okay, action chefs just start talking. Then all of a sudden I'm like, I see Kevin Sprague. I said, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in a long time. It's been a long time since Naples and blah, blah, blah. And then, and then you see Padma and Tom come around and say, hey, chefs, welcome to Top Chef, blah, blah, blah. That was probably the best time that I remember, because you didn't know what was going on. You didn't know what was next. You just knew that you were there to cook. And from that point, I was ready. I was ready. I was a little bit of nerves initially. But then after that, they were like, okay, this is your first challenge. And I was like, all right,
we're rolling.
I'm ready to battle.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
And you also competed on Beat Bobby Flay.
I did beat Bobby Flay. That was awesome. I mean, by that point, I had already been kind of a veteran of cooking, shows and stuff like that. So that was cool because I was able to go in. I had to cook against another chef in order to get the Bobby. So I felt pretty confident about that, but you never know. You never know what the ingredient's going to be. Literally, you find out about that ingredient 2 minutes before. Like, literally, when he says, okay, the theme ingredient is going to be okra, you have 20 minutes to make an amazing dish featuring okra. Your time starts now, and then you go.
Wow! So they really don't prep you at all. It's
no.
Okay, that's good to know. I always wonder about that, like on Chopped and Beat Bobby Flay.
No. Now the only time that the only time that you'll have to think about anything is when they're readjusting cameras for the shoot. So and also rules. So like on Top Chef, so say we're staying there for a quick fire. Padman goes over the challenge. Okay, your challenge is crab, and we want you to make a beautiful dish with crab. You're going to have 45 minutes. Okay, chef, your time starts now. And then we run around for like a minute. Then they say, cut chefs, take chefs to holding area Charlie for rules. Then you go to the area, and then they pull out. Everyone gets a packet of rules. There's a microphone. There's a microphone over us. There's someone videotaping, and then a producer comes out and they say, "Okay, chefs, today is going to be the crazy crab challenge. This is what they named it, and then this is what you're responsible to do." And then they'll go over the basic rules for that. Like, we're allowed to bring in, say, 10 or 12 themed ingredients that we think are for signature to us. So, for example, if I brought my hot sauce or I brought some spices, I can bring up to, and I only can hold into like a very simple bin. They might say on this challenge, you're not allowed to use any of your secret ingredients. You're only allowed to use the Top Chef pantry, dairy, so that was pretty interesting to deal with that. But that's the only time, and then you immediately move into the challenge, and then they say, okay, action chefs, and then you go back into it. But they want to make sure that everyone is very clear on the rules. So you sign, you raise your hand, we understand, but that's the only thing. So you don't have time to really think about it. You just know that you got to make something with crab. So if you don't have a good memory, if you're not, and the thing is, you might be thinking seasonally because that's the way you're wired, but the show's not airing. You could be taping. We taped in the spring, but it didn't air until like the fall. So you didn't want to talk about too many things that were associated with. You can talk about current events or anything like that. So during our season, that's when President Obama was when he was running for his presidency. So like you couldn't, we're not allowed to watch. There's no TVs. There's no cell phones, there's no computers, there's nothing. You're for like a month and a half, 2 months, you're you don't know what's going on in the world.
Whoa.
Cut off.
Yeah. Until Padma says, well, just so you know, she'll come up with a couple different little highlights just to keep you informed, but you're not allowed to talk about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be hard.
Lockdown. Yeah.
Jeez.
So I always wonder when I'm watching Beat Bobby Flay how chefs choose their dishes when they compete with Bobby.
Great question.
How did you pick chicken and dumplings?
So the producers will ask you, once they know that you're getting on the show, they're going to say, what 3 dishes can you make in 45 minutes that you think is going to beat Bobby? And we want you to come up with 3 dishes that the general public can relate to, but something that you do, but you definitely have to be able to complete it in 45 minutes. So I thought about dishes that like the chicken and dumplings. I had cooked that for Oprah Winfrey, like December, or like back in it was December of 2014. I'm sorry, June of 2014. And we were, it was right before Thanksgiving. It was a Sunday before Thanksgiving. I was out there cooking for a couple of weeks. And my buddy Sonny, who was our personal chef at the time, had said, hey, what are we going to cook on Sunday? And I was like, oh man, I got it. We got to make chicken and dumplings. It's a perfect dish. It's gonna be cool out. We're up in the Maui, up in the mountains. Let's do that. And so I wanted to do that dish because it was very comforting. It was very fast, but it was also unique. I also opted to do I think fried chicken, and then it was another dish. But they ended up saying, well, okay, we want you to do your chicken and dumplings, because then there was a story. Because every dish has to have a story. Why are you cooking this dish? And I said, oh well. I cooked this for Oprah Winfrey. She loved it, and it reminded her of when Maya Angelou used to cook for her and things like that.
Yeah,
so.
what a great story.
Great story.
Yeah.
Perfect selection.
I mean, anytime you can drop the Oprah bomb, you got a great story.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything trumps that. Oh my gosh.
And so then did Bobby know what you were cooking, or did they just spring it on him?
No, so I can't say that I know the truth behind that part. All I know is that he came out and said, all right, it's okra challenge. And then I had to cook a dish for okra. Then I won that round. Then it came down to, all right, we're standing off. And they said, well, he says his little thing. And then I said, oh, well, my theme dish is going to be chicken and dumplings. And he's like, oh, chicken and dumplings, blah, 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 blah. And then once we cut and we go to get to the positions before we're going to go, he said he looked at me and says, you won. I don't even want to cook. So I don't even know if that was a way of him just to say that, was trying to psych me out, or he was just being gracious knowing that he was going to lose. But he's so good that he can cook anything. So you can't, if you get in the mindset of saying, oh man, he thinks I'm going to win. I didn't even hear I heard what he said, but I wasn't even paying attention. Mm-hmm. It was my focus was just razor sharp.
Good. Yeah, that's where it needs to be. Are there any cooking shows you kind of dream of going on now, or are you kind of over it?
No, I would love to do Iron Chef Gauntlet. I think I'm built for it, for sure. I think my experience speaks for itself. 15 plus years fine dining, and then running, my own restaurants now. And I think I'm building up the credibility, on my own as an entrepreneur, but, businessman and whatnot. And as hard as it is, and running different things, when I still cook, I still cook every event that I do. I'm there cooking, putting the event out. I don't just say, oh, here guys, go ahead and do this.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
And I show up and I just kind of, kiss babies and handshakes and all that. That's not me. I'm there setting up the tables. I got a wedding this weekend, and I'm going tomorrow to pull all the stuff out of storage. I'm dry setting. I'm walking the space. I'm taking pictures, making sure my staff is set for success. And we have a Jags game that we're doing 3 events. So we'll finish up the prep tomorrow. I have to pack everything on Friday, get it into. They have a 24-hour rule. I have to get everything to the stadium in advance. So I'm doing it. I don't just say, oh, Sam, go ahead and do all this. Unless if I do something like that, that means I'm doing something just as important somewhere else. So,
wow. Yeah. Good values. Definitely. So tell us about some of your favorite cookbooks.
Oh, that's a good question.
Aside from your own, of course.
The first cookbook I ever looked at was a Betty Crocker cookbook when I was a kid.
Solid.
My mom, she had that book. Southern Living, their series of cookbooks was always great. But the Betty Crocker cookbook was probably the best one because that was for the home cook. I literally was learning arithmetic and fractions and breaking things down because she was like, okay, well, we don't need all those portions, so you need to figure out the portions for 4 people. So I don't even know if she still has it. She might somewhere, but there was little pencil marks in there for me writing into the book and making notes to break down the recipes and stuff like that. So that's probably my my all-time favorite. I'm not like the typical chef that goes out to look at what other chefs are doing. I am more like to learn about the history of food through the different cultures. So I can't necessarily, I have a ton of books at my restaurant and underground kitchen. We have a bunch of bookshelves. So like all my books from my library are all throughout that restaurant specifically. And the books that, if you go in and pick up those books, you'll see some that have been given to me. Like Justin Wilson, he had a Creole cookbook that came out, several years ago, which is great, that I kind of just scanned through. But like the ones that I would like go through and really read were the ones based on different cultures. And I remember specifically back in my Ritz-Carlton cooking school days, I had to come up with a curriculum for a year, and every month we had to be a different class. And I had a good group of students that would come in all the time. So I wanted to make sure that they were always going to be engaged. And I didn't want it to always be the same thing, So I would go out and research. So I would go to the library. I would sit down. I would grab a book. And then, and some of the books I would pick up were the ones that talked about, like chapters were based on that culture. Like, this is Russian cuisine. Here's the history of it. This is why we're cooking it. And this is why these dishes and these ingredients are relevant to us in our area. And that helped me to respect the culture by doing it that way versus taking like Thomas Keller and his views of French cuisine and how he applies French techniques to how he wants to cook in his restaurant here in America. Like, that's, as much as I respect him as a chef, I would more so look at a technique from him versus flavors and history of cuisine, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And you have your own, I guess, book/cookbook that you didn't even realize we had here at the library.
No, I'm actually, when I saw it on the table, I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that project and how that started.
Oh my gosh. So A Chef's Journal, the name of the book was something that I started before I was even on Top Chef. I had gone through a lot of challenges and different things in my life, and I kind of had this ghostwriter, Virginia Pillsbury, who had written a couple articles on me, different times when I was here in Jacksonville before I opened up my first restaurant. And I said, I really like your writing style. I'm thinking about doing a book, but I just don't have the time to sit down and write a book. And she said, well, maybe we can figure it out together. So we spoke, and I was going through a divorce and a bunch of craziness on in my life, and I said, well, how about this? I'm gonna call you. Let's talk once a month, like an hour or 2 hours, and then take everything from that, and then at the end of the year, like once we get to a certain point, we feel like everything is done. Then you take it all and put it together in chapters, and that's what she did. So I started off from my story when I remember as a little kid, with my mom, I told you guys earlier, all the way to the time of, my first wife had passed away in a car accident. I was raising my daughter on my own. Got a nanny, went through that whole process, got remarried, got divorced, and went through, we dealt with cancer, dealt with a lot of stuff over a period of time. And so I felt like I had a lot of things to get off my chest. And so I did that. And it was a very cleansing process. And then the recipes that are in the book are things that I remember cooking during that time. Because it's not just, oh, cool, he's a chef and he has a cookbook out. Well, what is the journey and the struggle of like getting to those point of those recipes. It's like that's why I watching Chef's Table on Netflix, because there's always a struggle, with the chef. The chef is going through something. It's not all easy. It's like these chefs that have these 1 or 2 star Michelin restaurants. Well, there's times that they might cook for one person or 2 people or 5 people. Then all of a sudden, after that one person comes in and blows them up, then they're sold out for years or whatever. Or they start doing really well, and then all of a sudden something happens, something tragic, a spouse or go through cancer or something. But then they keep cooking, and these certain things remind them of food as they're going through that struggle. And that's pretty much how my book was. It was self-published. I can call up and get X amount of books printed whenever I want and send them out. But I didn't look at it like I want to go out and do this big book tour thing and wanted to sell a bunch of books. It was more so like, all right, this is my story. This is the first one. Now the goal is to get a nice publisher and be able to take the restaurants that I have now and say, here are all my amazing sides, or here's my barbecue, or whatever. Make a really cool, kitchen or coffee table cookbook that's actually, where you can actually use it. Not like, you talk to like the Vitaggio brothers and they're like, man, he's like, I don't even know if I could cook out of that book anymore. Because sometimes, when you're cooking, sometimes you cook for ego, and then sometimes you cook for the guest. And if I give you a recipe, I want you to be able to duplicate it, because I want you to be able to say, wow, I love those jalapeno cheddar drop biscuits. How do you make those? Not so much like, oh, how do you make that asparagus truffle espuma that's served with duck egg mousse and caviar. Like some people are going to try to duplicate that, but the masses are going to make that biscuit.
Right. I'd make the biscuit too.
Yeah, same, absolutely. So I'd love to do some rapid fire questions with you about barbecue. Are you ready?
Yep.
Just answer from the gut, no thinking.
Okay.
You got this.
Okay.
All right. Dry rub or sauce?
Dry rub.
Let's talk ribs, baby back or St. Louis style?
St. Louis.
To brine or not to brine?
Brine.
Great barbecue is only as great as its side dishes. What's the best side of all time?
Pickled onions.
Ooh, good choice. You're on a desert island with a smoker, charcoal, and unlimited supplies of meats, but you can only have one type of wood. What do you choose?
Pecan.
Oh, cool. Love it. Pecan.
I wouldn't even have
Is that what you always use?
We use pecan and oak.
Okay, and oak. Nice. All right, those are all my questions. Not very many.
That was
Mostly for selfish reasons. I'm definitely going to put some pecan wood in my smoker this weekend.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And you brought us some things to try.
I did.
My favorite part.
Yes.
We have some fresh and pickled veggies. We have our dado pepper hot sauce. So we get our dado peppers from St. Augustine and grind and ferment those, and very delicious. And then I did some work over in the Caribbean, and I love conch, and so we create a smoked conch dip. So we take the conch and we take our chicken seasoning, salt, brown sugar, and then we pack it around the conch and we cure it for about 2 hours. Then we rinse it, season a little more chicken seasoning, and then smoke it till it hits about 155 degrees. Wow. And then we cool it down, chop it up, and grind it. And then we add our dado pepper remoulade folded into it. So that on crackers with the dado pepper hot sauce is like, it's the jam. And then we have our pimento cheese, our pimento cheese that goes in a lot of different things. So we have it just as a dip that gets served with fresh veggies, crackers. And then we also put that in our mac and cheese. Anna's mac and cheese. My wife's mac and cheese is a version of my original recipe, and kind of how she makes hers. Black pepper queso, sharp cheddar, the pimento cheese that has tons of different cheeses in there. It has our dado pepper mash, a little Raging Cajun. So we don't put roasted peppers in it because the water, the peppers kind of leaks out. So we add the pepper mash, which is the seeds that come out of the hot sauce that have been fermenting for at least 30 days, and then my Raging Cajun spice.
Yum! All right, let's dig in.
Let's
do
this.
it.
Yeah, try it.
Let's see. Try the conch dip first. Let's see. And where do you serve these?
So I brought these from Gilbert Social.
Okay.
I was just at Underground Kitchen earlier, going over some stuff with my GM and chef out there, and then on my way back, I knew I had the meeting today, the podcast, and I said, I text my chef James. I said, James, I need a cup of conch dip. I need some pimento cheese, I need some crackers and veggies, and he's like, all right, I got you, chef. And I pulled up, and he was messing around with pork butts on the smoker, and he gave me the bag, and I turned around and drove down here.
Love it. This is unbelievable. It's not what I expected.
Nope.
Not at all. It tastes very chickeny, and that's that chicken seasoning, right?
Well, you're getting this, I think, because of the texture of the conch. It's a very meaty muscle. So the cure on it, the brown sugar, the salt, the chicken seasoning, it is my specific chicken seasoning, which has mustard and cumin and coriander, everything like that. But you're probably getting a lot of the smoke that comes off of it goes really well with the conch. And when you grind it up and you add the remoulade, it comes off really nice. It's very, very unique. We purposely ground it up because most fish dips around this area, the fish is usually ground up. So the conch made sense because texturally you wanted to have it where you can, it's palatable. But like our smoked mullet fish dip, we do not puree up. We cure it the same way, we smoke it the same way, but we flake it. So as you're eating it, you're getting chunks of the fish with the remoulade on the cracker, so you can kind of identify to the fish versus just some kind of mashed up, puree.
And that's at Gilbert Social too, the mullet?
The mullet, we do that only at Underground Kitchen.
Oh, I've got to go there. I am a huge fish dip person. Anytime it's an appetizer, it's everything I get.
Awesome.
Every time. So pimento cheese is next.
Yes, I am going in for the pimento.
My mom had this when we came to Gilbert Social, and I remember it being really spicy, but it's been a while, so.
That is insane. It's it's got a really nice kick. But then again, I dipped right in the paprika part, which is the best part.
Oh my gosh. That's way better than I remember.
It's stunning. Yeah.
And what do you put the hot sauce on?
So when we serve the conch dip, it gets served in a mason jar, 4-ounce mason jar. So it's perfectly portioned, and then the veggies, pickles, and then the crackers. And the idea, like my dad, when I was growing up, he would get like pickled herring and like salmon croquettes and sardines, stuff like that. And we would literally just say Ritz crackers and that fish, and then shake the hot sauce on it. And it was like Texas Pete. So that's the idea behind it, that you add a little bit of shake. If you like spice, like I like spice, so I like to add a little bit to it.
Yeah, that definitely has a kick.
Yeah. So
good. Amazing. And then these are the
just some veggies. I think you gave me pickles, which is good.
Oh, I love pickles.
Yum. There's some cauliflower in there.
Yep, those are all pickles. So dill pickles. There's radish. There's carrots, green beans, cauliflower.
You try one?
Yes.
I'm trying to pickle.
Oh, nice.
And you said those are. Well, they're pickled, obviously, not fermented.
Yeah.
Pickled.
They're really sweet.
I love how thin they are.
Yeah, so we take
really
apple
good.
cider vinegar, sugar, salt, dill seed, dill, crush a pepper flake, bring it to a boil, and then we pour it over the vegetables. So it's a little bit different than some pickles are just put everything together and then you put them on a shelf and let them just go for a long periods of time. We don't have that kind of time. We got like 30. So we make sure that we pickle, like today we can salt the vegetables, rinse them, pour the pickling liquid over it, and then by the next day they're ready.
Wow.
Quick pickles.
You guys
Love
got to
it.
try this.
Yes, definitely.
So good.
Thank you for bringing this bounty with you.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
Insane. We're going to be eating this for the next, I don't know.
Probably just
few
till
days.
tomorrow.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It'll be gone
You're
tomorrow.
right. Absolutely. You'll come in the morning. Hurley, why did you eat all of it? I'm sorry. So we have one more question for you, Chef Kenny. When
Okay.
you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A chef.
From the
A chef or a fireman. My uncle was a fireman. He retired here. from the Jacksonville Force. He was for like 35 years. He was a captain and he's a paramedic. And I remember him coming up to visit. He was a military. He was a 82nd paratrooper, and he would come up to visit in Cleveland. He was stationed in somewhere in Carolina, and then he would drive up. And I remember just running through the parks with him and everything that he was about, doing push-ups and pull-ups and running, and and I was a swimmer, so like I was always in pretty decent shape, and then when he got out of the military, he went to go be a fireman, and I was like, that's what I want to be. And I was like, well, cool, I can cook and cook in the firehouse, and that would be an awesome job because everyone knew that firemen were great, great cooks, and I just stuck with that. Then I applied for the Navy because I was like, well, my uncle was in the military, so I'm gonna go to the Navy. And then I also applied to culinary schools. I applied to CIA, New England Culinary, Johnson & Wales, and Pennsylvania Culinary. And then I got accepted to Pennsylvania Culinary. I got accepted to all of them. And I said, well, where am I going to go now? And then I said, well, I won't go to the military. I'll go to culinary school in Pittsburgh, which was like a 2-hour drive from Cleveland. And then there you have it.
Nice. We're glad you became a chef.
Yes. Although fire extinguishing is a pretty good skill to have
true.
as a chef.
Yes.
So either way, it works out. Chef Kenny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks for having me.
Jenna's elbows deep in pimento cheese over here.
Sorry, guys. 1 second. I'm almost ready.
It's insane, y'all. You gotta get on this food.
Oh, my gosh. I need to make it to the other restaurants. I feel like such an idiot that I didn't know Underground Kitchen was the first one.
No. Don't feel like an idiot. You have so much to look forward to.
That's true.
You do. You get to go to Fernandina and try his OG restaurant. Although he had restaurants before that, but that's the first in this concept.
Right.
And then you get to come over to the beaches
Hang out
and
with
visit
you.
all 4 of the concepts. Well, 3 now. 4
Right.
when the seasonal one opens.
I know. I checked out his website and I was so disappointed that taco stand is closed now.
There's always next year, Jenna.
Something to look
Be
forward to.
Optimistic
You're right.
about your food.
You're right.
And maybe by then, those restaurants will make it into Southern Living, and Sandy will go too.
It's true.
Since she'll only go to Southern Living restaurants.
As soon as she hears this, she'll be over here.
Yeah.
Get ready, Sandy. Come on over to Jacksonville. I'm ready to go to these other other restaurants.
Sandy, take me out to eat.
Oh, so fun. I love that he was saying that Betty Crocker was his favorite cookbook,
Yeah, underrated.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Everyone,
You gotta stick
everyone
with the
hates on that.
standards,
But,
yeah.
And he mentioned Southern Living, so
Hey.
big fan.
Make sure you check out Kenny's website, chefkennygilbert.com, and visit all of his restaurants, Gilbert's Social, Gilbert's Underground Kitchen, Gilbert's Hot Chicken, Fish and Shrimp, and Gilbert's Southern Kitchen and Bar.
I can't wait to go to all of them.
Oh, I know it.
Check out pictures from our interview with Chef Kenny Gilbert on our website, jackspubliclibrary.org/podcast.
And make sure you check out his cookbook as well. We have 4 copies in our collection, and it's called A Chef's Journal.
Yes, we will link to that from our podcast page as well. So head on over to that or our catalog and check it out.
Make sure you follow us on social media at Jack's Library.
And give us a nice 5-star rating and a wonderfully, eloquently written review.
Yes, we're looking for eloquence here, people. Don't slack off.
No, I want to see it proofread, multiple sentences,
Proper commas.
Oxford comma or no?
It depends on if you're writing AP style or not.
Oh, okay. Up
We'll
to
take,
you.
We'll take either.
Up to you.
We'll take either. It's a
Don't
choice.
care.
It's a choice you have to make, people. My mouth is full of pimento cheese, and this podcast was produced by Brian Thomas, a.k.a. BT, a.k.a. Producer Brian. Goodbye and good barbecue.
Ooh. Barbecue, baby.
Barbecue. Let's go to Gilbert's.
Gilbert's, everyone.
Out.